Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Danny here. Today I'm talking to you about Chokkyuu Kareshi Kanojo. So Chokkyuu Kareshi Kanojo, or straightforward boyfriend-girlfriend, I think is the translation for that. It was published in 2017 and just ended last week with a total of 39 chapters. This is written and drawn by Nagisa Fujita. This is the weird part. This was published in Comic Rex in the beginning, and around chapter 24, the magazine decided to drop it. I was trying to look up some stuff for it, and if I had to guess, it's the content within this series, which we'll get into in a little bit. But then eventually it got picked up by, I guess, Shonen Champion magazine. And this is a monthly magazine, and this has crows, worst. So let's go ahead and get into this, man. It stars our main characters, Honda and Wakamiya, two freshmen at this high school who on one fateful day just happened to meet each other. Honda is the super straightforward guy in this series, is very honest, likes to be blunt, doesn't really understand context, I guess, in a sense, and doesn't really know how to process others' feelings, as he is super popular and a lot of girls, confess to him, ask him out, and he just says, "No way, I don't know anything about you. Why would we date? This would be horrible." And so he is that kind of character. And Wakamiya is part of the public school committee, and she is more or less a tomboy that kind of wants to get in touch with her feminine side as well. She is more or less the same type of character as Honda as far as how they are. They are very loud. That's the big thing you take from this series, is they are very loud characters, and you could really hear them yelling when you're reading these chapters. It is fantastic. And yeah, so the fateful day, Honda has a hentai in his bag from one of his friends, and she's trying to confiscate it from him. He's like, no way. He asked me to take care of this, so you can't have it. And so they're doing all these things. She's chasing him around, eventually confronts him at this fence, and as he's trying to escape, she grabs onto him, tries to pull him off. And as they fall, of course, he gets a nice grip of them baps. Comedy is a key thing into this series. A few days later, Wakamiya realizes that she has feelings for Honda and decides to confess before it's too late, because someone else with the same name as her wants to confess. And she knows what it is, but Honda doesn't, because he's like, what is this, a challenge? Well, I don't know. I might as well go and see what they want. And so Wakamiya decides to confess her feelings. He, of course, says, "Hey, thanks. I'll see you later." And she's like, "Wait, that's not what's going on. I want to date you." And he's like, "No way, because I don't even know anything about you, this, and that." She's like, "Okay, well, get ready. I want to tell you everything about me." And he's like, "Okay, cool. We could start as friends." And that is this series. It's her trying to win Honda's heart so that way they could be a couple. I really enjoy this. I highly recommend it. It is a good time. It's super wholesome. It's funny. And there's surprisingly some moments in there I wasn't expecting either that just adds more to the story. So yeah, the main aspect is that this is a rom-com, and they get into these funny, wild situations with each other, as well as the other supporting cast members that are their friends. And the biggest thing for me with this series is the writing. It is so good because it's so over-the-top ridiculous. That's what Honda and Wakamiya are. They're ridiculous characters. So of course they have to talk like that. There's a moment to where they're going to the beach. There's one of those big moments in the manga. And Wakamiya just doesn't know what to do because, she's a tomboy. She never really paid attention or cared about this stuff until now. She's having a hard time trying to figure out what kind of swimsuit to get. And so she just said, fuck it, walks up to Honda. It's like, "Hey, do you like sexy outfits?" He's like, "Like them? No, I love them." The back and forth dialogue between them, it's so refreshing to see. And to my surprise, we actually get to see them be a couple after a certain moment where Honda realized his feelings and decided to confess them to her, and thus they started dating and continuing these wacky wild adventures as a couple, which changes a couple things like the way they talk to each other, the amount of compliments Honda can give her, and her being super embarrassed, and all of that stuff is just really wholesome. And I gotta say, I was also surprised with how serious this could get. I thought for sure it was just gonna be all good times, funny haha jokes while we explore their life through high school. But there's actually moments where there's a lot of questioning with the relationship. They take a break, and we see Honda, the loud, honest character, be quiet and solemn and actually think about his mistakes and what he wants to do to correct them. Didn't really expect that, and that was a good change of pace, because you don't want to drag things out, right? Like, I am bummed out this is only under 40 chapters, but it gave us exactly what we needed, and none of it felt like it was dragging on. I did laugh a lot at this series, and an example of another series where I felt like that too was The Way of the House Husband. And as much as I enjoy that series, what's the first thing that popped up in my mind is, how long are we doing this before it gets boring, before it gets dragged out? I feel like this series answered that, because maybe it's because of the limited number of chapters there are, but the fact that they changed the pace with that and actually continued on with the narrative between Honda and Wakamiya and their relationship and how they both grow as characters together. And it's also interesting too that since they're in a relationship, the supporting cast took a back seat, right? Because usually it's all about, oh, all the friends are coming together, they're hanging out, and then whoops, accidentally these characters, our main characters, get a little bit closer to each other and they start to get stronger and stronger feelings. And once the moment where they became a couple happened, the support cast is no longer needed, so they're taking a back seat because it's now about the adventures of Honda and Wakamiya. And even after that point, there is still the consistent bar of hilarity. There is still the consistent bar of hilariousness throughout the series. The writing did not take a dip in that at all by only focusing on these characters. And also, a big note to say on this series that I didn't expect is conversations and actual moments on panels of sex talk. Hey, we have to have sex now, right? We're a couple. I want to do it. Let's do it. And I think that could be part of the reason why this got dropped from the first magazine, which maybe that's a thing because it was around chapter 24-ish. Yeah, chapter 20 is when they did the deed. So yeah, maybe that was just a little too much for the magazine it was in. But yeah, I will say, like, I am just super surprised of how we got it. And I have to say, the way that Fujita handled them having their first time together was super hilarious. And it was just so in character between them. And even just the structuring of the panels with the talk bubbles was great. So this series is Fujita's first work, and I think it's pretty telling. When I was looking up the series, people said that this started on Twitter or something, but I couldn't find anything for that. And then we find out that he's a Pixiv artist. So like, oh, okay, yeah. So he's a new era type of mangaka. And you could really tell because of the paneling. This is just a slice of life series, right? So there's really not a lot of engagement to go in, but majority of the panels on each page is the 4 rectangular panels. And for most of the time, they're all boxed in. But every now and then, you'll see them pop out of the borders for each panel, as most mangakas do with their work. I found that interesting. I didn't have a big problem with it. Part of this that makes it so great is it kind of feels like it's also a 4-coma, right? And those are like those newspaper comics, right? The super short 4-panel series that are just there to get a laugh or just to see something happen. And that's kind of how this series kind of feels. Like, we're here for the laughs. We're here to see what happens when we're given this scenario to Honda and Wakamiya. Mainly Honda, because he's always the one saying things out loud, and Wakamiya gets super embarrassed and he just doesn't understand. And he's like, what? Well, we're going to have sex anyways. Like, who cares if people find out? And all that kind of stuff. And earlier I said the support cast took a back seat, and that's mainly with Honda and Wakamiya's friends, right? The people that were there so that way they could get closer together. We got a little bit more in the series as we get to other characters that I believe are fan favorites because they were funny and good when they first popped up. But then we started seeing more being developed there. And I thought, oh, this is great. And it was at that moment where I thought, oh, okay, why is it ending now? Because this could go on a lot longer as we build more and more with those characters as well. Right? Sort of like in Komi-san, another example. We have the main focus with our 2 characters, Komi and Tadano, but then as you get further and further and expand the circle of supporting cast, we start getting other relationships being forged, and then we can actually explore those and stuff. And that is always good to see if there are characters that are likable and you want to see those ships happen, I guess. So I thought this was going to be something that was going to happen here in this manga, but that wasn't the case. But at the end of the day, I was okay with them not really fleshing out more because we did get a lot between these two characters. And when we read the final chapter, it really is left open for interpretation of where they're going to be moving going forward. Plus, it's super wholesome stuff too, so you really don't want to drag that out as well, right? I'm sad to see it go, but it was a great journey through and through. And just to talk about the art, the biggest highlight for it is the way Fujita can draw faces. It's mainly just a lot of reactionary stuff, right, between Honda and Wakamiya. As Honda says something ridiculous, she gets embarrassed, or they just start yelling really loud at each other. And just the way they're drawn, it's really good. Plus, you could really feel the energy based on what they're doing, and especially with the intense chapters like them having their first time with each other. It's really right in your face how energetic the chapter is, and it's super great. Complements the humor to a T. So with that, guys, that's all I really have to say today. Highly recommend. Go check it out. Again, it's only 39 chapters. I was trying to reference some stuff in the panels, and I ended up just skimming through the series again, and I was like, man, I could just reread this right now and still have a good time with it. Because, again, like almost every chapter, I was laughing at something, and that is perfect for a series like this. So thank you guys for sticking around for this episode. Have you read Chokkyuu Kareshi Kanojo? Would love to hear your thoughts, and you can send that to unversepodcast@gmail.com, as well as any other questions or comments. We'll sure to bring it up on the next episode, and you can follow us on social media at unversepodcast anywhere you go, and we'll let you know when those episodes drop. So thank you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.